Welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because we're going to be uncovering the real, empirically backed science of lie detection. And we're doing that by completely dismantling some of the most stubborn psychological folklore out there. Have you ever wondered if you could spot a liar just by watching how they behave? Or maybe you've wondered who among us is naturally built to deceive? Well, we're going to break down the anatomy of deception today, and trust me, the truth is far stranger and far more fascinating than the fiction.
I want you to think about your own built-in lie-detecting radar for a second. Imagine you're talking to someone, and they start avoiding eye contact, they're fidgeting, shifting their weight, maybe looking just a little bit nervous. Your immediate thought is probably, they're lying to me. It's what we've all been taught, right? Okay, let's dive into this because science actually has a very different story to tell about that assumption.
Think about the number 54%. According to massive meta-analyses analyzing tens of thousands of veracity judgments, human accuracy in spotting lies is basically a coin toss. It's hovering right at 54%. And here's the truly wild part. This accuracy rate stays exactly the same regardless of whether you're a layperson, a seasoned police investigator, a psychiatrist, or even a judge. All of those supposedly expert professionals perform absolutely no better than chance when trying to figure out if someone is telling the truth or telling a lie.
Section 1. The myth of lie detection, why body language betrays us. So researchers have identified a list of what they call psychological folklore. Gaze avoidance, fidgeting, restless foot movements, frequent posture changes. We are absolutely convinced that these are the classic signs of a liar. But decades of rigorous empirical research have proven that literally none of these nonverbal cues are reliable indicators of deception. I mean, think about it. An innocent person accused of a crime is going to be incredibly nervous, and yeah, they're going to fidget. Our baseline assumptions about how truth-tellers and liars behave physically are totally flawed.
So the crucial point is really perfectly captured in this 2019 scientific review. The nonverbal cues to deceit discovered to date are faint and unreliable. Relying on body language is a complete scientific blind alley. In fact, studies have shown that programs designed to train people in analyzing nonverbal behavior or microexpressions, like the ones used in some airport security protocols, actually fail scientific tests. In some cases, training people to look for these physical signs of nervousness actually decreases their detection performance to below chance. Searching for the looks of deceit is basically a wild goose chase.
Moving on to Section 2. Meet the Master Manipulator. Enter the high mock. If body language is useless for lie detection, who are the people actually designed to get away with it? To answer that, we have to look at a personality construct called Machiavellianism, often abbreviated as MACH. This is a trait characterized by manipulativeness, a total indifference to morality, a lack of empathy, and a highly calculated focus on self-interest. Now, just to be clear, while it's named after the political philosopher Niccolo Machiavelli, it is a completely distinct psychological construct. It was created back in the 1960s by psychologist Richard Christie and Florence Gies specifically to study and measure deceptive, manipulative behavior in everyday people. People who score highly on this scale are known as high mocks, and they have a very specific profile. They firmly endorse manipulative statements like, never tell anyone the real reason you did something unless it's useful to do so. Yikes, right? They are deliberate, orderly, and extremely emotionally detached from their interpersonal relationships. They operate purely pragmatically. They will cheat, for sure, but only when the stakes are right and the risk of getting caught is incredibly low. Because of this strategic, unemotional manipulation, high mocks are particularly well-suited for white-collar crime, and honestly, they're often very successful in it. Let's move to Section 3 and see how this builds. Inside the Machiavellian mind, how they differ from other dark triad traits.
You see, Machiavellianism is part of what psychologists call the dark triad, right alongside psychopathy and narcissism. A lot of people actually confuse high mocks with psychopaths, but the differences are critical. Psychopaths tend to be impulsive, reckless, and they generally lack long-term planning skills. They're going to manipulate regardless of the situation. High mocks, on the other hand, are highly calculated. They are patient. They have this chilling ability to delay gratification and are incredibly sensitive to consequences. A high mock carefully plans their lives so they don't get caught. They are the ultimate strategic deceivers.
Now, what's really interesting about all this is the concept of empathy. You might think high mocks just have zero empathy, but it's a bit more complex than that. Humans actually experience two distinct types of empathy. Hot empathy is when you emotionally react to and share the feelings of someone else. Cold empathy, or cognitive empathy, is just the intellectual understanding of what another person is feeling or how they're going to react. Well, high mocks severely lack hot empathy.
They don't feel remorse or guilt, but they have highly intact and sometimes even exceptional cold empathy. They understand human emotion just enough to perfectly exploit it without ever actually feeling it themselves. Wild, isn't it?
All right, Section 4, the surprising science of linguistic markers of truth.
So, if nonverbal cues fail and high mocks control their demeanor perfectly, where do the lies actually leak out? Well, deception is revealed through language, not body movements. Groundbreaking linguistic research tells us that if we want to catch a lie, we have to close our eyes and open our ears. The true key to lie detection isn't in where someone looks or how they sit, it's literally embedded in the words they choose and the auditory hesitations in their speech. And this brilliantly illustrates one of the most counterintuitive findings in all of deception research. When comparing laboratory-elicited lying versus truth-telling, researchers found that truth-tellers say the word significantly more frequently, and their ums are much shorter in duration. Liars, conversely, say much less frequently, and when they do, they drag it out longer. I know it sounds totally backward, but saying is actually a statistical sign of authentic, truthful communication. We've always been told that saying is a speech disfluency, right? Like it's a mistake or a sure sign of nervousness. But the science shows that is not a mistake at all. It functions way more like a natural interjection in effortless communication. When people lie, they experience a very high cognitive load. Basically, lying takes a ton of brain power because you have to invent a story, monitor the listener's reaction, and suppress the truth all at the same time. This heavy cognitive load literally strips away natural interjections. The result? A liar's deceptive speech becomes unnaturally polished, rigid, and oddly free compared to the comfortable, totally normal hesitation of a truth-teller.
Section 5, rethinking how we spot lies, a new paradigm for deception.
Let's summarize the core takeaways here by comparing the old folklore we need to toss out with the reality we need to embrace. We used to think fidgeting meant lying. Well, reality dictates that body language is basically useless for deception detection. We used to think hesitating and saying meant you were making things up, but the linguistic reality is that are a marker of effortless truth, while perfectly polished speech under pressure is actually highly suspect. And finally, we used to think displaying emotion meant someone was genuine. The reality is that high mocks expertly use cold empathy to fake emotional understanding without feeling a drop of genuine remorse. Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. Knowing that master manipulators rely on our completely flawed belief in body language, and knowing that the massive cognitive load of lying strips away the natural of human conversation, will you ever look at an impossibly polished, perfectly rehearsed, free communicator in your everyday life the same way again? Seriously, think about it. Keep your ears open, pay close attention to the language, and maybe stop looking at their feet so much. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this empowers you to see the world and hear the truth just a little bit clearer. Catch you next time.